Welcome on back to another edition to Comic Book Flashback. I'm Marl the Cross 316, and today we are looking at The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 84. This issue came out in May of 1970, and today we are looking at a great story here. We see the return of Kingpin here, and we're also going to be looking at the Schemer as well, as this is going to be the Schemer's second appearance. Today's title is The Kingpin Strikes Back. And so we got to give credit where credit is due before we start this issue. This story is brought to you by Stan Lee, who wrote this issue. We have John Romita, John Buscema, and Jim Mooney doing the illustrations, and then, of course, Sam Rosen on the lettering page. And so we start out the issue today, and we know that last issue we had it snowing. Well, New York City now is in a big snowstorm, and Spider-Man is caught right in the middle of this big snowstorm. But one thing we need to recognize right off the bat is that there is a $5,000 reward for the capture of the Schemer. The Schemer is wanted by the police, wanted by the Daily Bugle, and Spider-Man's like, that's interesting. I could use $5,000 right about now. So that's exactly what is going to be driving Spider-Man to go after the Schemer here. He's going to be on the search throughout the rest of this issue trying to find the Schemer. And of course, as we look into more of this issue, we'll see whether he finds the Schemer or not. And so, one thing also is that there is no address or anything about who is paying this $5,000. We don't know who exactly is going to be giving this $5,000 away, but Spider-Man doesn't really care about that. And so he's going to be on the search for the Schemer. We see that this bus is caught in the middle of this snow. I mean, there's just heaps of snow everywhere in New York at this point. And so Spider-Man comes to help out this bus, and then the bus driver's like, somebody help, Spider-Man's trying to hijack the bus. And so Spider-Man can't even help anybody without him being recognized as a thief or a criminal here. So he just, I guess he saved the bus, but he went on his own way. Then he's like, maybe I can question someone down below where I could find the Schemer. So he sees this guy. This guy dressed up. He looks like a crook. We see here that Spider-Man then goes and grabs a hold of this guy, and we come to find out that he was actually a decoy cop. That this guy actually was on duty but undercover. So now Spider-Man not only got blamed for trying to hijack the bus, but now he also blew this guy's cover. And so Spider-Man's luck has gone from bad to worse here. And we also remember how last issue we had, this whole gang war going on. This is mainly what we're trying to focus on, is that we got the Schemer versus the Kingpin. And so one of the guys that Spider-Man fought last issue, he comes across at his apartment somehow. And we see here that he's going to break into this guy's house here. And so he's like, where's the Schemer? And he's like, I don't know. He changes his hideouts every day. And so we see that Spider-Man is still not getting anywhere with trying to find the location of the Schemer. And this guy is left in his own apartment, webbed to his wall. And so Spider-Man then is just like, man, this is for the birds. This whole swinging in the middle of winter, this is crazy. And like as you could see, that it's just a huge snowstorm, pretty much a blizzard going on. We see here that Spider-Man changes back to Peter Parker here, and he's going to go check on his girlfriend, Gwen Stacy. And we remember from last issue that Gwen is pretty mad at Peter Parker. We saw how there was an accident last issue where she had to be rushed to the hospital, but with Peter Parker being too busy trying to stop this gang war from starting with Kingpin and the Schemer, he forgot all about going and checking up on Gwen Stacy. And so we see here that he arrives to her house, and we see that her dad allows him to be in the house. He comes inside, and we see that Gwen is still upset here. And so we see that it gets pretty awkward at this point, and she's almost to the point of breaking up with Peter Parker. And we see that her dad brings hot cocoa, so that allows Peter Parker to just stop the probing for right now. But then we see here that Gwen is starting to ask about what happened and all the events that took place when that truck fell over on them last issue. And she noticed that Peter Parker wasn't even scratched, he wasn't even beat up from that accident as well. And then we see also that her dad, Captain Stacy, is also questioning Peter Parker, and Peter Parker's starting to get worried here. It's like they're going to start suspecting things. And so he comes up with this whole incident where he drops the cocoa and he's like, man, I'm just not feeling well. I got to get home. I got to get back into bed. And so he rushes out of the house here, just trying to bide his time, trying not to get Gwen and her dad suspicious here. Now let's see what the schemer is up to. It sees that he has this secret car that he gets to drive, and it's well built, has these different gadgets that other cars don't have. And so he's in hiding right now, but he's also trying to strike revenge against the Kingpin. So we see here that one of the things his car can do is he can melt snow and ice, and then he drives away here. And now he's on the search. He's going to be threatening all of Kingpin's men here, and he strikes here, telling the Kingpin's men that he is after the Kingpin and he's on the schemer's list. He's the next person on the schemer's list. And so now we catch up with the Kingpin, and we see here that his men try to alert the Kingpin. Kingpin's like, get out of my house. And we see here that we remember from last issue that Kingpin's son, Richard, died in Europe, and that his son died hating his own father. And we see that Vanessa, Kingpin's wife, is pretty upset about that, and she doesn't want the Kingpin to be in this life of crime. And so that's another thing we're going to have to worry about is the relationship between Kingpin and his wife, as Kingpin's wife is pretty upset about just the life of Kingpin, her husband. So we finally are going to see how the Kingpin and Schemer are going to meet up. As we get towards the end of this issue, we see here that Spider-Man learns here, excuse that, Spider-Man learns here that the schemer has this car that he gets to drive and it has all kinds of weapons and stuff on it. So Spider's like, that's interesting. While he's swinging, his spider sense goes off and he sees, wow, look at that. I can't be that lucky. And of course, it is the schemer. The schemer tries to shake Spider-Man off of his vehicle. The schemer then tries to ram Spider-Man, head on here. And we see that Spider-Man gets out of the way. We then see that the schemer is going to drive his vehicle right into the river just to shake Spider-Man off of the vehicle. Then, look again right here. His vehicle can then levitate out of the river and go back on dry land here. So that's a pretty unique car, I have to say myself. So we see that Spider-Man is still hot on the trail of the schemer. We see that the schemer then locates the Kingpin's house. And so now we're going to see the final confrontation between the Kingpin and the schemer. The schemer is seen outside of the Kingpin's window. Here we go, y'all. The schemer and Kingpin are just about to tackle each other when all of a sudden we see that Kingpin's wife comes in the room and she's like, stop it, both of y'all. I don't want you to become a murderer. And she then looks at the schemer, and we see right here something interesting is that her facial expression is showing that she knows the schemer, and that's something interesting. And so, what is this all about? And we'll find more of this out next issue as we come to find out how Kingpin's wife knows the schemer and something about the schemer and his secrets. We'll find all this out next issue. Then we see that Spider-Man breaks into the Kingpin's house. And so then the Kingpin fights Spider-Man for a little bit here, saying he's definitely had it coming for years here. So Spider-Man tries to fight the Kingpin, and dishes out as many of his moves in his arsenal as he can. But we see here that the Kingpin just cannot stay down. He's always going to get right back up, as he's one of the hardest villains that Spider-Man has fought. And so we see here that the Kingpin recognizes that his wife and the Schemer have left the building, and so now we see that the Kingpin is going to be going after the Schemer here, and he has no time to mess with Spider-Man. So we see here that the Kingpin gets away in this secret hideaway here. There is like an elevator of some sort built into his house, and we see that Spider-Man once again has gotten nowhere with his mission of capturing the Schemer and getting this $5,000. Instead, all he's gotten is a few lumps and some pictures of the Kingpin beating him up. And so we see here that we'll find out more next issue as we find out once again the Schemer's secret. What is the Schemer's secret, as well as how is Spider-Man going to be caught up in all of this? We'll find out more in issue number 85. I hope to see you there. But before we go and look at that issue, go ahead and click the like button. And as always, keep reading comics.